So in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about apartment living and buying apartments and how apartments work in my neighborhood of Gaoxingqiu in Chengdu, which you can see pictured here. So I'm going to start with a little tour of my complex, and then we'll get into some other stuff. So I thought I'd take a quick video of my apartment complex. I don't think I've ever actually put a video together of it, so it'll be a good way to introduce what apartment style living is like in China. So I live in a complex called Yasongju, which translated means Arcadia Court. We have 9 towers, and most towers are about 23 or 24 floors. Each floor's got about 4 apartments on it. Actually, I'm sorry, there's 9 towers. 8 of which are sort of standard towers, and of those 8, each building has 2 sides to it, Tower 1, Tower 2. So 8 buildings times 24 floors each, times 2, and 4 apartments per floor in there. So quite a lot of people living in this block of flats, as you Brits would say. So anyway, this is my lobby here for building number 5, and you know, it's Yasongju is it's probably about 6 years old. This complex was built, I think, probably about 6 years ago. I moved in here 4 years ago. My wife bought her apartment here a year before that, and at the time it was brand new. And so when I first came here 5 years ago, when she had just bought it, this place was a ghost town. As I've said before, this region was a ghost town. But now this is 100% owned. Every apartment here is owned, and probably well more than 60% are occupied. It's pretty busy. So let's take a look at the grounds, shall you say. It's quite, actually, Arcadia Court it's relatively new, but I think it's quite beautiful, but it gives you a sense of what these complexes look like. I'm just walking outside of my building here. I mentioned there's 9 towers. The tower, actually 8 of them are like mine, and then the 9th tower, 9 being a big lucky number in China, is a luxury tower where there's, I think, fewer apartments per floor, but they're much larger, and some of them are multi-story, so you got 2 floors of the building. These trees are not this old. This is in the new complex, so these were sort of imported here from huge tree farms outside the city and planted. They're actually cut back significantly every year to keep the growth from getting too out of control in the subtropical climate of Chengdu. And again, this is very typical. When you go to older apartment complexes, they're less maintained than this, and the trees and the flora have sort of just grown, wow, I can't speak today, have just grown significantly. And so sometimes they have this sort of overgrown appearance, but it's actually quite nice because they're extremely green, right? Where ours is still relatively new, you know, relatively high property value here. So the company, which is Kennedy Properties, that maintains Yasongju, they're actually a Hong Kong company, Hong Kong real estate development company. So they're a little different than maybe some Chinese development companies, and they actually do keep a really sort of tight lid on this place. The security guards here are so good. The security guards actually in this complex recognize my friends, and that's not just because my friends are foreign. They actually recognize my Chinese friends. A good friend of mine came here one time, and first time he tried to get in, he had quite a hassle because he didn't know my apartment number, and they wouldn't let him in the door. And the second time he came here, he said, "Wow, your security guards are good." He's like, "They recognized me. They knew right where I was going. They let me right through." You know, and there's thousands and thousands of people that live here if we do the math, right? In terms of occupancy. Like palm trees makes me feel like I'm flowering a little bit. Nice. Sunday afternoons is not too busy here, but around evening time when everybody's taking their after dinner strolls, this place is quite busy. Town. little big circle. As you can see on the map, over there, the red building is the Phase 2 Yasanju, which was just opened, starting sort of what this place was years ago, when I first came here. So, I'm just taking a quick walk over here to the pool area. So what do these apartments run? These are about 90, I believe, I'm always bad with square meters of apartments. These are about 90 square meters, although there's a couple different sizes, a couple different layouts in these apartments. With a balcony, our balcony's closed in, but you can see some of these balconies are closed in as well. That's a choice. We had somebody close them in. They run about the property value now is about 2 million RMB. This is the pool here, which is not yet filled, even though it's June already. Strangely enough, this pool should be open from June 1st, but it won't open until July, and then we'll close in September. I used to love the pool, but then it just got too damn busy. So, it's our north gate here. There's a quiet entrance, one of 2 entrances here. Parking is underneath. Parking spaces cost a ridiculous amount of money. I believe 80,000 RMB. I'll check that figure. We didn't buy one when we had the opportunity. We just thought it was too expensive. We should have in retrospect. When we move into our new house, we'll probably rent this property. And rentals in China are strange. They don't reflect property value. So like our apartment now is worth about 2 million RMB, and if you think about that in terms of what you'd rent a piece of property for in the United States that costs that kind of money, rental in my place probably about 4,000 RMB a month, without utilities, without like condo fees. So if you do the math there, that's pretty cheap rent for property value. So kind of strange. It sort of does tell us a little bit about the housing bubble here in China that I always worry about bursting, since so much of my family's money is wrapped up in property. This is Tower 9 here. The other thing with Tower 9 was that, and we looked at an apartment there for my in-laws. It was totally stripped. The other apartments have floors, walls, and utilities and everything all set. Tower 9 was completely bare walls like my house. The idea being you can just completely customize the interior. You can rip out the interior in my apartment and do whatever you want, but for these, customized. So, again, it's very nice, it's quiet. There's a children's play area over there. I'm not going to bother showing you that. Maybe some of you would be interested, I guess, but it's just like a children's playground area. This is the main gate that leads out into Metro Place, which is where all the stores are, where we pick up our packages from. So he's making me pick the packages. So this is our main gate here. Security's pretty, it looks lax, the door's open, but they actually won't let random people in here. These folks are really good. These folks are really good. They just know everybody. So this is Metro Place here, where we've got sort of a lot of stores. There's a medical clinic, and a convenience store. And here, my local noodle shop, New Age noodle shop. That brings us out into the main road. As you can see here, the construction that you should have seen in some other clips of this area, this brand new construction that's going up. Probably done in a year or two, more apartments and shopping right across the street from me. We have our China Construction Bank there. Hair salon there. And bring out to main road. So these guys in the suits and white shirts here are selling real estate for this new complex here. So they're sort of like hanging out. You can see the brochures in their hands.
waiting for people to come by. They usually bother me, but they're not bothering me today, right? Because they see me filming. But it's a big business. I can only assume that these guys get a little bit of a cut if they manage to bring somebody in. From a marketing standpoint, I don't know why you would do this, why you paid this many people to be out here selling property here, right? Doesn't make a lot of sense overall, financially. I assume that if these guys somehow manage to rope me in to buy a property, then I assume they get some sort of commission. Because they're pretty aggressive sometimes, depending on the time of the day. They see me drive by in my Mercedes and flag me down until they see I'm a foreigner, and then sometimes, the more aggressive will actually try to sell me this property. This must be the younger folks. And they're here because this is just a very, very busy street. So it's the type of place where you get a lot of people walking by later in the day. It's still early, it's about 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. And, again, the big reason that this particular neighborhood, Chengdu, is so popular is the fact that number 7 middle school is right down the street here, one of the best middle schools in Chengdu. And so there's a lot of good elementary schools here as well. Right? There's advertisements for property. You can take a look. Translate these for you. Yeah. So, buildings that are long full. Just going to walk down here to the sales office. So one of the things that's quite funny is as these buildings go up, they build this really extravagant sales office. And these guys are sort of based in that sales office. And then when the building is done, and so for example, if you look across the street here, that lower building in front of the other buildings was originally or briefly the sales office for Yasongju Phase 2. And since then it's closed down, it's now converted very quickly. It was a sales office for maybe about 6 months, and now it's a bunch of shops. And so the sales office that was here, the sales office for Yasongju used to be in this complex, in this block, and everything else was just ruins. It was just, So I had to edit out a car alarm here that was splitting my ears. I can't imagine what it would have done to you guys. Anyway, the new sales office is right here down the street. It's very posh. You're going to see me practice some bad Chinese with these guys right now. 你好，你好。So this is the sales office here with the and security guard. People pull up, they want to find out about, what these houses are going to look like, yada, yada, yada. There you go. 100万这个。
对，它单价的话在2万左右。
我老婆有3个房子。哦，
你老婆有3个房子。
对对，我们不可以买。
那你们可以买商铺啊。
1000个，可以买，随便买。
这它
可以。 谢谢。
它这种房子是属于公寓，然后不限购。
不限购哦。
对，
要不要里边去看一下嘛？
我可以看一下，
走吧。
但是
没事。
啊，真的我不知道这么说。
可以。
不用。
就
So we'll take a look inside here.
你来中国很久了吧
？4年。
觉得
4年。
说的真好。
真的，我的普通话不好，可以说一点点。So this is the requisite map. 哦，你好，谢谢。Complimentary tea.
现在商铺的话是这边。
啊。好。
然后我们再卖的公寓是这边。
荣华北路 ？No， 不是。哦，荣华北路。
好。
对，你们养蜂居就在这边。
对对。漂亮。No, how many of these are sold now? Like what? Half of them, or all are 10%?
你收多少 ？1/3.
1/3 are already sold.
Yes.
Oh, okay. When will it be finished?
Maybe next year.
Next year. Moving in so fast.
Oh yes.
So fast. Okay. Looks great. Okay. I don't want to waste your time. I feel bad because but you can say hi to people in America because I'm making a video for them too. Maybe they'll come and buy houses when they see how good they are.
So that clip may not have captured the sort of the poshness of that particular sales office, but this is a big draw in China, and in fact, a lot of these sales offices will hold events to help bring people in, obviously, as sales. This is a complex downtown in Chengdu that's being worked on right now that's offering really high-end luxury apartments that are actually managed, so that almost like a hotel room, so for very, very wealthy people. And they sponsored an auction of extremely expensive rare antiquities and really expensive watches like this one. And so I thought I would just show you the promotional video. I took a video of the video that this particular place was offering, and there's a couple of other clips in here of sort of the mood in the place, I guess you could say. So have a look.
Shows itself in 10 miles of luxury in the east. World Tianfu, the pride of age, is seated in 3-kilometer-long Xinjiang. Inheriting the greatness of 3,000-year Xinjiang, the architecture is located in the center of CBD. At the eastern side of the only lake in the city, you can hear the flow of the world travel.
So one other thing to talk about when we're talking about real estate in China is the Hukou. And what is a Hukou? A Hukou is essentially identification of where you're from. It's your hometown. And so in China, it's extremely difficult to change your Hukou. So if you're born in a little village somewhere, all of your social services, your medical insurance, your right to buy property or lease property — you can't buy property in China, it's a whole different topic. It's technically a 99-year lease, but for the sake of argument, it's purchasing. You can't purchase property outside your Hukou. You can only purchase in the Hukou that you have. So one of the most valuable things that anyone in China can possess is a downtown Beijing Hukou, or even just a Beijing Hukou in general that allows you to buy property in Beijing, or Shanghai Hukou allows you to buy property in Shanghai. Cities like Chengdu, Shenzhen, up and coming cities. Chengdu is now considered to be join the ranks of tier 1 cities in China. Having a Chengdu Hukou is extremely valuable because, again, it allows you to, the license the ability to buy a piece of property in Chengdu. Now, even for Chinese people, it's complicated about how this works. If you wanted to get a Hukou in Chengdu, there's a way to do it, there's a process to do it. You can work at a certain type of job for a long time within Chengdu, so you should be a migrant worker here, professional, college educated. If you're desirable in some way, you can transfer your Hukou to another place. So for example, I have a good friend, he's a young guy, he's probably in his mid to late 20s, married, wanted to buy a house here in Chengdu, in Kaohsiung, and he had to work at his job in a school as a professional, again, college educated. He had to work there for 4 years, I believe, before he could transfer his Hukou and purchase a piece of property in Chengdu, which he did actually in February. So that's one way, and it was very difficult, and sort of like working with him for a year and being friends with him and seeing him go through this process, very stressful, very difficult to do. It's not like in America where, if you have the money, you can just buy a house. You have to have the right to buy the house there. So Kaohsiung, because it's a special economic zone, the government now has said that if you've graduated from a top university in China with a degree in information technology or something else, high-tech related, technology related, and you top scoring university graduate, you can, no matter where you're from in China, you can transfer your Hukou to Chengdu to buy property in Kaohsiung. It's one of the reasons the property values here are going up is the good education that you can get here for primary school, which will lead you to a good education for secondary school, lead you to a good college. So they're actually incentivizing bringing families who are going to make a lot of money, who are going to be wealthy, who are going to value that education to the high-tech zone. It's one of the reasons that the property values in Yasongju just doubled in the last year and a half, because suddenly there's a huge desire. If we were to put our apartment on the market, it would be sold before the ink was dry on the paper saying it was for sale. There's a huge line of people who want to buy property here already. As you heard, talking to those folks at the real estate office, these buildings, just the construction of these buildings started maybe 6 months ago. Officially, there was some delay because it was originally owned by Kennedy Properties, and now it's been bought by another company. So the development sort of stopped for about a while, but now it's these buildings will be done inside of a year, and before they're even done, a third of them are already sold. By the time they go on the market, or by the time somebody can move in, they'll all be sold, 100% probably. Now, will they be occupied is another question, right? People will buy them as investments, they'll rent them out, sometimes they'll just hold them as an investment property to sell or to turn over a year or two without even touching it. So that's the Hukou system explained, which is an important part of sort of, understanding the Chinese real estate world. Buying an apartment in fourth or fifth tier city in China, it's cheap and it's never going to probably appreciate unless that city suddenly becomes extremely sought after, right? So one day, it'd be interesting to see what happens if one day the Chinese government decides to do the right thing and abandon the Hukou system and allow people to buy property where they want to make it a true free real estate market. That will have a huge shock to the system, but it'll also make a system in which the property values are real and not manipulated by the government. So.